In this video, I'll teach you how to charge exposition with emotion. Exposition is all about context. Exposition is, of course, information pertaining to location, characterization, biography, and story concept that the audience needs to know in order to follow the events of the story. As a writer, it's your job to hide these blocks of information within the story to make it feel essential and wanted by the audience instead of a mandatory slowdown. Something I talked about extensively in my 2 Rings of Power videos is how characters constantly talk to each other about world events that everyone in that story should already understand. These situations are devoid of context, which is the bread and butter of dialogue writing as a whole. When this information is not actively changing the main character, it becomes a bore to the audience because it strips away all of the drama. There are several ways to retain drama during exposition, but let's look at emotionally charged exposition by examining the new Park Chan-wook film, Decision to Leave. Decision to Leave is about a detective named Jang who is tired of his overbearing wife and mundane investigations. When a homicide falls into his lap, he is re-enthused by the excitement of murder, but also starts becoming attracted to his main suspect, Song, the wife of the man who fell off a cliff. When structuring your web of exposition, we have to keep dramatic escalation in mind, which you can find a whole video about here. We all expect the case to start out with small clues and hints and ramp up over time until we get the big reveals that really turn the story and crack the case. The least important, but still essential information must come first, and the key information, the secrets of the characters, must come last. It's the job of the writer to make the audience feel like they have all the information they need in the moment though, to make every new reveal exciting and dramatic. To do this, Decision to Leave starts by having Jang immediately suspect Song. This is not a whodunit where he has multiple suspects. He knows that either the man slipped from the face of the cliff or his wife must have been involved. That being the case, if his earliest investigations were not emotionally charged, it would become a bore. But built into the context of the scene, he is spying on a woman who seems to fill some of the voids in his own relationship with his wife. She is alluring to him. The presentation keeps these sequences dramatic too, because we see him placed inside her environment, essentially interacting with her even though he is only spying on her from afar. This transforms the film from being less about what he actually knows about her to more about how he feels about her. There are 2 essential pieces of context that his investigative information is being funneled through. First, Jang's boss hasn't been happy with his slow investigative process, so solving this case will elevate him in his boss's eyes. This is personal incentive. Second, he is starting to find what he has always wanted out of a relationship in this woman. Both of those veins of context are things that are going to be actively changing Jang. The other big thing that I haven't brought up yet is that every bit of information has to serve the immediate conflict. Looking at our first example, we can see that the results of this information determine the fate of his job. He has stakes in the matter. The external conflict is him trying to solve this case to appease his boss. In our second example, we find the internal conflict. As he keeps learning about this woman, he wants to leave his wife for her more and more. This binds the internal and external conflicts and makes them inseparable. He has to choose between his job or his ideal relationship he has always looked for. The exposition teaching us about Song through Jang's investigation is something we want in on, because it is actively changing his fate in this matter. We have emotional involvement in the information, so we want it. As the story builds, our exposition escalates and we start getting more and more important reveals until we hit a tipping point where Jang has to make a decision. Through the conclusions on what Jang decides to do with all of these conflicting pieces in his life is where our philosophical conflict comes out. Is it better to live a secure yet dull life, or a dangerous but emotionally fulfilling one? This is how you emotionally charge your exposition. Make it matter to the characters and their internal journey. Make sure every element of your story is in service of change at all times. I've left a lot of details out about this film because I think it's an absolutely thrilling watch that you should all go check out while it's still in theaters. One other thing that I want to point out is how the presentation keeps all of this information dramatic. I mentioned that Jang is placed within environments he is thinking about, which is an example of this. But also, watch out for the scene late in the film where Jang goes to climb the cliff for himself. During this scene, we see 3 different timelines of 3 different people climbing the face of the rock all at once, each having their own revelations and emotional hurdles at the same time. This is essentially tackling 2 flashbacks and current events all in one moment. Keeping your exposition succinct as to not slow the pace is a great practice, and this was a fascinating, very creative way to approach it that I loved. Please check out Decision to Leave. It's currently in theaters at the time of recording this episode, and it will be released onto the service Loopy afterwards. If you want a more readily accessible example of emotionally charged exposition, check out The Martian by Ridley Scott. The format of this film is a botanist logging his discoveries while stranded on Mars, so it's exposition heaven over there. But these studies are vital to his survival and escape, so the exposition carries a massive emotional baggage for the main character, making it dramatic and engaging. Stay tuned for my next video on the premiere of Chainsaw Man, which will release this Friday at 2 p.m. If you enjoyed the video or found it informative, leave it a like and subscribe. It would really help me out. If you thought it could have been better though, give it a thumbs down and leave me some constructive criticisms in the comments below. Thanks guys, I'll see you later.